name is Winnie Harper Moyer. I was born in Buda, Texas, in Antioch Colony, and my year was 1937, July the 29th. My daddy's named George Harper. My mother's was named Emma Tennant Harper.
Did you have other siblings? Did you have brothers and sisters?
Yes.
Could you list them for me?
Okay. We have 5 brothers.
Okay.
Oldest one, George Harper Jr., deceased.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is Joshua Harper. The next one is Elijah Harper.
Mm-hmm.
And the next one was Moses Harper. And the baby boy was Samuel Harper. I have 5 sisters.
And what are their names?
Miriam Harper Washington.
Okay.
Eunice Harper Rhymes. Emily Harper Hill. Ruth Harper Fears. And Winnie Harper Moyer.
Okay. What was your dad's occupation? Did I understand you said he was a farmer?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What did he farm? And were you a part of that?
Yes.
Okay.
He farmed cotton, cane, high gear, and vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
And we was a part of it because besides the cows, he had cows, horses,
Mm-hmm.
dogs, chicken, turkeys, guineas,
Mm-hmm.
ducks, and we had to take care of those animals.
Mm-hmm.
And when he farmed hay, he would go around to different farmers here in Buda, and he'd cut the hay and bale it for them. And he would pick their crops, do the crops for them, whatever it was. Cutting down cane, he grew corn, and we'd have to cut that down
Mm-hmm.
and stack it. The stalks
Mm-hmm.
of the corn, we had to stack it together, tied in bundles,
Mm-hmm.
and then we put them just like an Indian hut.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we would stack them in the fields.
Out in the fields.
Mhm.
Did your mom do the training for in the house?
Yes,
Okay.
she taught us how to iron,
Mm-hmm.
which we had to put the irons on the coal,
Mm-hmm.
the fire,
Yeah.
and then she showed us how to wipe them up before you put them on the clothes,
Uh-huh.
and taught us how to cook. Started with red beans
Mm-hmm.
and brown gravy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Learned from those 2 things until I got older.
Uh-huh.
And then we went to cornbread, one
Right.
thing at a
The
time.
higher food groups.
Right.
Yeah. Was it evenly divided between your mom and dad, or was it more in the house?
More in the field.
More in the fields?
Because mother took care of the home.
Okay.
In those days, parents didn't allow the young kids going and cooking and messing up food
Mhm.
unless they were trained.
I see.
If you were not, you didn't do that. My mother took care of that.
I see. So you went to the fields with your dad?
Majority,
I
yes.
see. Okay.
When we came along, the school had moved from up in the pasture, I guess you call it,
Mhm.
and moved down to where we built in the church at, and we had a 2-room school that was built by the Revators. They all was masons, and they took the rocks out of the woods and gathered them up, and our school was made out of rock.
Okay. And you said it was a 2-room school?
2-room school.
Okay. Divided by the age of the students who
Yes.
went there? I see.
Like the 1st grade, 2nd and 3rd grade was in one room, and then the 4th through the 8th was in another room.
Okay.
And we had a kitchen in there, but we had outdoors restroom.
Uh-huh.
And Mrs. Callahan and Mrs. Woody, Catherine Woody from San Marcos, and Mrs. Callahan were from San Marcos.
Mhm.
Those 2 teachers.
And Miss Woody
Mhm.
She Callahan,
Mm-hmm.
Callahan. Well, both of them was, but Miss Woody didn't whoop me as often as Miss Callahan did.
She would whip you.
She wouldn't.
Wouldn't.
She'd tell me she gonna whoop me, but she didn't whoop me. And I liked it her better because Miss Callahan, she whooped the hardest. And
Would
she
she do it
didn't
with a paddle or a switch? Or?
ruler.
Ruler. Ruler. Mm.
So she said she gonna get you. She got you.
Mm-hmm. Was that a everyday kind of thing? Did
Yeah.
somebody get it every day? Or?
Every day.
What store did your parents deal with?
Mrs. Stacy grocery store
Mm-hmm.
and Mr. Cecil Clark. Yeah, I like Mr. Clark's store better because he let us get candy and gum on it. Miss Stacy wouldn't. She says, that's not food for the whole family, so you can't have it.
I see.
You run the George Bill up.
Yeah. Oh, I see. So
So-
you could actually charge on your dad's bill.
Yeah.
Not very, well, just going there shopping with my dad, you
Mhm.
know.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I'm not going to end up picking up something that had no business or some sweets or something because mother made all that.
Yeah.
So I just follow along, seeing what he get on his grocery list.
Okay. Okay.
But Mr. Clark, I'm like, I like going down there. Ice cream at that time was only 15 cents a pint.
Yeah.
And then it went to 25 cents.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, you just go in, get whatever you want to, and you just felt a freedom
Yes.
in his store. You know, he wasn't so, I guess he wasn't so tight,
Right.
you know, because he knew we were George children, and he knew whatever we got, George was straightening out, and we got the wrong things.
Yeah.
But we
Yeah.
always told to go and get one thing or two things, that's all you could get.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the way I did. But my favorite was ice cream
and
and Mr. Goodbar candy.
Mr. Goodbar candy. Was your dad treated with respect, I guess is my question?
Yes.
Okay, great. Glad to hear that.
Yes. Very much so. And today, if we run into somebody that knew my dad and we say we are Harpers,
Mm-hmm.
they, you know, oh, George, you George's daughter? You know, and I said, yeah. And if it's something just like Mr. Love, electrician, he used to come through and talk to my dad about the colony, you know, learn all about it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I called him to do some work for me, and I told him I was George Harper's daughter. And he said, oh, he said, well, then I'll give you a discount. So I appreciate that.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Mm-hmm. No, it's nothing hard to talk about. They didn't like you, they just didn't like you. You know, it was racist, they let you know they was racist, so
Yes,
you
ma'am.
wouldn't bother to hold no conversation with them.
Right. Right.
And we didn't. We came from a Christian family,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
we was taught to treat everybody the same.
Yes, ma'am.
And even if they mistreated you, you just pray for them and go head on. Don't start no, you know, ruckus with them.
I see.
Just get out their sight.
Okay.
So we do that.
All
That's
right.
how our daddy taught us. Didn't want us to start no trouble, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and get locked up from arguing back with somebody that didn't like you. Well, we went to Florida first before we went to Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay.
And someone out there in Florida had told him if he go to Arizona, the crops was more, you know, they had lots more crops out there,
Okay.
and they paid more money.
Mm-hmm.
So he gathered us all up, including a bunch of friends
Uh-huh.
that wanted to follow him out there.
Mm-hmm.
And he bought him a big old, what was it, 1950 Chevrolet truck.
Mm-hmm.
And he put a tarpaulin over top of it
Wow.
and put us all in the back of there.
Wow.
And we all moved to Arizona.
Uh-huh.
We went to, what's the name of that first place we went to in Arizona before we moved to Phoenix? Florence, Arizona.
Okay.
We stayed there, I think about a year, and they told us it was better in Phoenix,
Okay.
so we moved to Phoenix.
What happened to Antioch Colony in the meantime? Because obviously your family was one of the big families of the community.
Well, most of them, the elderly ones passed away, and the young ones moved to Austin
Mm-hmm.
in different, you know, cities in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Some went to California,
Mm-hmm.
and it just, you know, my uncle, my dad's brother, and his wife, and daughter and son, they remain here, going to Antioch Church up there. And a few neighbors, the Buttons and the Cersei's, I think, was left till they all, passed away. The house where we was born, it was still standing. And my cousin's house, we call him Ted Kavanaugh, his house is still standing. And my cousin there with the Anderson, she married Louis Anderson. Their house was still standing. And I think that's about all. Yeah, Miss May Pete's old house, that's right. Her house was still standing. But I think that was all. George Smithman didn't have any house on their property, but he finally put a trailer on there.
Okay. No church?
No, they had tore the church down just before I came.
Okay.
Well, at that time, it was the parents took you to church. They took you to Sunday school, 11 o'clock service, and 6 p.m. service. And we had no choice to follow our parents, but as I recall, the main thing I really got out of church service, the prayers. They prayed out loud. They got on their knees and they prayed out loud. And they couldn't help but understand that they're praying for the families of the church and the communities and thanking God for his blessings. And that was, and to see it come to pass, the things they prayed for. And I learned how to pray by hearing my dad praying aloud in the church. He didn't miss nothing, to my knowledge.
Yeah.
From the members of your body to all your health and strength.
Yes.
So it was an instance that they had sat quiet. And we sat down, and one time I was on the edge of the bench and I happened to put my foot out in the hall, and my dad, you know how the parents watch children around in church, they've been looking around to see how you acting. My dad's probably like, they come back and spanked me on my leg. I went crazy. I just went almost blind, scared so bad. Because all those folks in church, it didn't make him no difference. But I didn't do that again.
Yeah.
Well, really, to me, Buda hadn't changed too much because they didn't have no daycare like they have now. They didn't have these additional stores that they have in buildings. And I think they only started really improving is back in 1998. In 1998, because at that time we had a plan for a vision plan for the colony, and we had in there daycare and places for the elder. And after that, then things started booming, to my knowledge, because there was our plans, but we had took them to the city. So after that, they had daycare going all over. They only had one elder place I know of. That's there Bluffed in Hayes Trail. That elder home there.
Yes, ma'am.
But after that, it seemed to me that things started booming in 2000.
To see different peoples to move into the neighborhood was a change, to me. And, white families had moved into Antioch Colony, and there wasn't that many blacks. And the things as far as peoples go was a little better. They didn't treat you wrong, they look at you and look off, to keep you from looking at them. Everybody was more friendly.
Really? Good to hear.
Yeah.
Was there anyone in particular who stands out in your mind as particularly welcoming when you came back?
Yes, the postmaster, and I was trying to think of his name while you was talking, but I can't remember his name. He was very friendly, and I told him that we was moving back, we didn't have a mailbox, and wanted them to put a mailbox, over in our area. And he welcomed us and told us anything we needed, well, we didn't know about, to let him know. And I did, and he's the one that Dad decided to name the street that we on, Old Black Colony Road. So I went to him and asked him, how do I go about doing that? And he told me. So
That's
he was
interesting.
very helpful, for our community. It came before the Civil War. I think after Grandpa died,
Okay,
then grandmother moved to Hayes County.
all right.
Her mother moved. So that was our great-grandfather, not
Okay.
our grandfather.
So for generations back,
Yeah.
the family had been here. I recall.
Riley. He gave each person so many acres, families, to move them off the property where they was working.
Was that ever talked about in your family,
Oh, yes.
Mr. Rowley?
Daddy drilled that in our heads.
Really?
I don't
There's
know
your
how I could
history.
ever forget his name.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, how nice he was to the black peoples, gave him a start.
Yeah.
And I think he worked for everybody around here in Buda that had a farm. And, to take care of his children, because he worked on the railroad track for the railroad company starting in Kinchinville. That's where he started, because that's when that, what they used to call cyclone came through, and he was working on the railroad track, and he said, oh, Lord, he said, don't take my family, but it wasn't nobody there but his wife. And they couldn't get to him, there was a school there, and other houses, white people's, but they was the only blacks that lived around in that area.
I see.
And they couldn't come. They told him, they're going towards your house, George. He said, Lord, save my wife, And this little boy, my mom told us many times that he was getting out of school, and he came through there where her house was, and told the lady, you got to get out, She said, he said, come on, let's go to the school. So they went to the school when this tornado came through. And his brother lived somewhere close to there, but it wasn't where he were. I guess on another man's farm. And his family got tossed in the storm, and one of the children got killed. But the other two were saved. I think they was thrown in a ditch somewhere. But the baby died, his little baby. And mother lost her eye in the storm. 2x4 went through her head and come out through her eye. Her and this little boy, she wrapped him in her arms, and they got in a corner, and it blew out all the glass in the school. And 2x4s, glass was flying everywhere. So I don't recall her saying that he got hurt, because she said she covered him up, with her body to keep him from getting hurt. And that's I think the only thing. Well, she had another splinter. The splinter went through her head, and a tooth through her hip. That's what it was. And she was crippled from that, for years. They hadn't had any kids at that time. But they got her straight, Doctors worked with her. And only thing, she never did get her eye back. So she had one eye the rest of her life.
Were you involved in picking cotton?
Yes.
Oh, boy. Yeah, that usually brings it. Oh,
Sun
boy.
up to sundown.
Sun up to sundown. That's picking time.
Yeah.
How big an area would you cover? I mean, town-wise, was it all in the immediate Buda area? Would you have to go farther out?
No, we went all over East Texas,
really?
Corpus Christian, Dallas, all those little towns down
Dodgetown.
there. Picking cotton.
Wow, hard work.
Yes, very hard.
Did you ever? What was your record in a day? Did you weigh your sack
Yes.
at the end of the day, or
No.
your sacks? You'd fill more than one, I'm sure.
Right. Every road that you went down the roads, you go start at the end and go down and turn and come back. So if there was a lot of cotton, you fill your sack up a couple of times before you got up there to the end.
Mm-hmm. Long sacks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you had to pick them up and pack them to the scales
Yeah.
and weigh it, and then he emptied, and then you go back down and where you left off at and come back.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a sense, Minnie, of how many pounds of cotton in a day you might be expected to pick?
Oh, I think I picked maybe 100 pounds.
100
150.
pounds is a lot of cotton.
In a day's time, you pick more than that because some of the sacks weighed
Yeah.
60 and 70 pounds,
Yeah.
you know.
I've
And we-
heard real big, now I've heard, never had to pick it,
Yeah,
300 pounds, 400 pounds in a day.
yeah. We started pulling bowls out west, in West Texas, Florida,
Mhm.
and they weighed up to 100 pounds at one time.
Wow.
And you'd have to carry that or drag it to the scales. Mother would make the little ones sacks out of. They bought 25-pound sack of flour
Uh-huh.
and feed to come in the grass sacks.
Yeah.
She would tie a necktie around them, a piece of rope,
Uh-huh.
and make a sack out of it.
I see.
And they'd put them on, pick cotton.
Wow. Would your mom bring meals out to you?
Oh yes, she cooked them.
You didn't go
She
back
was a
to the
good
house.
cook.
You stayed in the field, right? Or the
Yes.
tree or something.
Set up on the trailer when it was hot. You know, we'd get in the shady part of the trailer. And that's where we would eat. She would serve it from the truck
Mhm.
that Daddy had. She would have everything in a basket in the back of the truck. And that's where she'd fix our plates and we'd go sit down. We had tin tops
Uh-huh.
at that time. So we put them all in one of the baskets to go back to the house, you know, when we finished. But we'd pick the dark.
How nice the clerks were to people, period.
Yes, ma'am.
Regardless of the race, creed, and color.
Uh-huh.
We must have lost them until 1979 when we moved out here to Seymour.
Mhm.
But to us, we never was people. We were people of color. Doesn't matter to us. If it's nice, they're nice. If it wasn't, they wasn't.
Right.
You know, so it doesn't matter. You know who was changed and who had not changed.
Right.
But the elders around here
Mhm.
had spoke well of my father,
Yes.
and the change that was made. We were, I think, the first to go to the city hall in Buda,
Uh-huh.
and people were very nice there, and that's where I met Mr. Barton. Again.
Yes. Bob Barton.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we was introducing ourselves, and I said I was a Harper, and he says, telling George Harper's daughter, he said, well, you had as good as your father. You're doing well.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a
So-
real compliment.
Yes, they had elders of the community here that been around. They were very polite and spoke well. I wouldn't know until someone would come back and say, "You're a Harper," and they would say they were speaking well of the Harper. I said, "What's my dad?" My parents, my mother, she worked for the Watsons and Roscoe Watson, Miss Merle Watson, and all the Watsons, you know, around there, and different ones.
Yes, ma'am.
House cleaning for them.
Uh-huh.
And so they were always nice. My dad always did good work for him, and you know we had nothing to complain about because we was just independent as the next person, I guess. Not much was independent.
I guess it really meant something to be from the Harper family, from the George Harper family.
Yes, George Harper family.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a big change, and they was, you know, white and blacks going to school together, and and they had not a whole lot of black employees, but they had hired some, you know, to work where you didn't work on no job here in Buda, you know. And Austin had changed a whole lot, you know. They had colleges, plus they had areas where they was teaching other kids, black kids, training jobs if they was low in education, you know. They had a school where they had put together to teach them, you know, if they didn't qualify for the regular public school, they had a place where they could take them and teach them,
I see.
you know. And then the black guys was playing football, which the university didn't allow them to play, you know, and over there they only played as far as high school, and they didn't let them go to the university. So they didn't have any black teammates until they finally decided to let them play, try them out, you know, and then they find out they could play. So that had changed, and I enjoyed that because I went to Anderson High School. And when you left there, if you didn't go out of town to college, you didn't go to Texas University. You know, they didn't have blacks. I went to Phoenix, Arizona, and moved them here when they got where they couldn't, you know, really mother couldn't take care of a lot of the needs.
I see.
So I brought them here and moved them in with me.
Okay.
And I took care of them until they passed away. And it just, I don't know, they kind of took away a little bit when they put it in these new neighborhoods, you know. But I love it because the trees and the empty land, you know, and then the peoples here really that lives in the colony were very friendly. I done moved away, but them that moved in their places, they still friendly. Nice, treat you just like you one of them. So I appreciate that, you know. Everybody in my neighborhood really is very, you know, beautiful people. So I really like that.
Minnie, how about yourself? Last word about Antioch Colony?
It's among the greatest colonies.
Yes, ma'am.
And I really enjoy this history for me. I'm born and raised here. That's home. And I just enjoy trying to expand it as much as possible. That's what's left of it.
Obviously.